can you tell me who exactly is Kali and what is her relationship with Shiva? In popular culture, Kali is always portrayed as a negative adharmic god or goddess. Is this correct? Very good. Let me deal with this in reverse order. First of all, Kali is not adharmic in any way whatsoever. Kali is indeed one of the goddesses of Sanatana Dharma, in who she is and the ultimate nature of her being and her ultimate purpose in being. She is dharmic. She herself is indeed a great devotee of Shiva, but even more, she's also, interestingly, a great devotee of Narayana. But she does indeed represent the darker forces of nature. As far as her relationship with Shiva, she is a manifestation of Parvati, who herself is the consort of Shiva. So in a way, indirectly, and in some cases directly, Kali is indeed a consort of Lord Shiva. Now, let me also say this from a historical perspective, because again, I have a PhD in this in addition to having been a spiritual practitioner for 45 years. So I know the history of this. Kali worship is something that was not very prevalent in any way whatsoever in Sanatana Dharma up until rather recently, and meaning, and again, I know the history of it, the 19th century. It was in the 19th century, and specifically in Bengal, that the worship of Kali started to become very prominent. Actually, you could say it happened in two waves. The first wave beginning in roughly 15th century, the second wave being in the 19th century, and then one could say a bigger but less significant wave in the 20th century among New Age folk and left-hand path folk. So this is the history of Kali, is that indeed she was not a very much propitiated goddess, let's say previous to the 15th century. She was there, you heard about her, she always had worshippers. But the idea that she was a very prominent goddess, no, that was not the case. Indeed, if you want to speak about, let's say, India itself, and let's say the correlation of the history of Sanatana Dharma with the history of India, again, Kali worship began to become somewhat bigger starting around the 15th, 16th century. And even then, specifically in the two states of Assam and Bengal, and what now is called West Bengal, but what was unified Bengal at one time. Otherwise, throughout the rest of India, there were very few temples of Kali. And again, let's say that sect, that devotion to Kali grew and grew and grew. It had another big wave of growth in the 19th century due to various individuals who promulgated worship of Kali. But then again, what we've seen is that the last manifestation of the growth and the importance of Kali worship really happened among New Age folk and truly dark, demonic, left-hand path individuals in the mid to late 20th century and now into the 21st century. So in other words, she's not considered to be that much of importance at all. And for individuals who are Vaishnavas specifically, we honor her as indeed a dharmic goddess. But to quote Prabhupada and other great gurus, we honor her from afar. In other words, the elements of nature that she represents are not elements of nature that we are very interested in or need to depend on in any way. Rather, we worship that being who is her object of worship, and that is Sriman Narayana. So I hope that answers the question.